Demosophia is a consulting company that helps people tackle their most challenging problems and provide them a high leverage path forward so that they can really make a difference. There'll be a sponsor. There'll be somebody who wants a problem solved. Our job is to really figure out what the need is and how to put that kernel of what they're looking for into one question. We'll do one-on-one interviews, we may do surveying, we may do data analysis to understand sort of the edges of the problem. It's actually the sponsor in the end who says, yep, that's what I want to go after. We do a bunch of work up front to make sure that all the perspectives that are needed to understand the problem are in the room for the dialogue. But being there is not enough. It has to be done in a way that their perspective and their voice can influence the decisions that are made. There are stakeholders that get invited because of their expertise. We worked with one school district on strategic planning where we heard a lot about their Hispanic community and English language learners. That meant we needed to have people from that community and people that taught English language in the room. Because our process is so democratic, people whose voices are typically not heard can have a significant influence on how people understand the problem. And that's why it takes so much work up front in discovery. What are the edges of this? Who do we need in the room? What's the triggering question? How do we structure the conversations? But once we have a collab, the process is identical. We get all the people in the room for the collab. They're the content experts. The first thing we do, once everybody's clear on the question, is we actually give people 10 minutes in silence to write their best answers to that question. People will respond to the triggering question and come up with their ideas. We'll begin having people tell us what their ideas are, and we ask for a headline. There's a projected screen that will say idea number 1. And as the person tells us their headline, we type it into the computer. And then I'll say, is that what you want? The author gets to read it and say, yep, that's exactly what I want. So then we go around the room, we go around everybody, we get a collection of headlines, and then we go around the room and have everybody clarify what their idea means. My role as the design manager is to manage the process and make sure that the rules of engagement are enforced. The microphone goes to our sound system. Our sound system goes to a live captioner that's recording verbatim what everybody says. So the microphone's important because it acknowledges that only one person can talk at a time. I use the microphones to sort of manage the process because if 2 people are getting into it about a particular idea, that's not allowed. I will literally grab the mic. When you do that, the room really appreciates it. People will laugh, but people get the message. I will shut down a CEO as fast as I'll shut down anybody else if they violate the rules. That's why we're so strong about the democratic part. Each person's voice has equal weight. Why we are so adamant about protecting authors and authors' ideas. People after collabs have said it's almost freeing. It's almost emancipating. They have never been in a room where their voice had equal value to everybody else's. If we don't protect people that way, that minority voice can't come forward. The content comes from the people in the room, and we don't touch a word of it. We can have 60 ideas, we can have 120 ideas that come out of just one triggering question. So when we're done going around for clarification, we can then just hit a button and out prints all the ideas that were generated and all the clarifications. We print them, hole punch them, and bring them and give them to everybody in the room. So now you see binders getting full of all the ideas that they generated, and that's a little bit of a wow factor for people because they've never experienced that before. They're used to facilitators taking notes or whatever, but now they get them verbatim, just what they said, and their ideas are protected, and we haven't done a word of content. After the generation and clarification is then to cluster the ideas, which means we sort them on similarity. And there's actually 3 reasons for it. One is that as people have conversations about the ideas, and they're trying to decide whether they're similar or not, they actually learn more about the ideas. The second is that you see the dimensions of the problem once all the ideas are sorted. And then the third reason is we want to figure out which of those 70, 100 ideas are the most important ones. If it's just a big mess, you can't find them. And we give everybody 5 dots and they can go then vote. If an idea begins to have 10 or 14 votes, right now the group is saying this is an important thing for us to tackle. If we've got 10, 15 things that are the most important, now how do those ideas interact? Because in these complex problems, if you're trying to hold 15 ideas at once and try to understand the relationships, your brain just can't do it. When you're in the middle of a mess, everybody knows that there are a bunch of important things, but what they don't know is which ones provide leverage. Where should I really focus first? There'll be 2 screens going with influence mapping. One will be electronic voting software, so everybody will break out their phones, their computers, some device that's connected to the internet. And then on the main screen will be the question. If we make progress in resolving factor 1, will this significantly influence the resolution of factor 2? And so then they'll vote on their phone. They won't see anything on the screen until all the room has voted, and then we display the results. If you question whether it's significant or not, the answer is no. In order for us to put a yes in the computer, a significant supermajority of the room has to believe that. We usually say about 75% have to say yes. So now we have people vote electronically and up pops the vote, right? And now the vote's 50-50. Well, you got half the room that's saying yes, and you got half the room that's saying no. Now you get into some pretty intense dialogue about the ideas and what the influence is and why some people think it's significant and why some people don't. And then we re-vote, and now it'll be 60-40. Well, we're getting closer. Do you guys want to advocate again? And so we keep going until it's pretty clear the room's done. We take a final vote. Nope, didn't cross the 75% threshold, so it's a no and moves on. Even if 75% of the room says yes, we give the no's an opportunity to advocate and say, no, I think you people have it wrong. It really doesn't have a significant influence. And all we're trying to do is fill in a matrix as efficiently as possible. So you have the top 15 ideas on this side, and you got the top 15 ideas on this side. And what you're trying to do is fill in that matrix with either a yes or a no, whether there's a relationship, a significant influence between those ideas. And the only assumption that's made is something called the transitive property, where like if A influences B and B influences C, then A influences C. So what happens is if you put a yes in a box, it'll autofill all those connections and then figure out what's the next most important question to ask. Without the software, it's absolutely possible to do. It'd just take you days. Then you hit a button and out pops a map of all of the ideas with all the relationships. The map is important because it shows everybody in one picture the relationships between all of the most important ideas that everybody had. If you really want to change the system, work on these 2, 3, 4 things because they'll drive everything else. The influence map is the key deliverable that comes out of the Colab. It's been a build-up to that point, but there's a lot of other things that come out of a Colab. Common understanding, common language, alignment of 20 or 25 people or 40 people that you've had in the room around what to do and why. People learn from each other. You come up with all this stuff, now you're poised for change. Other consultancies follow what's been standard practice for 100 years. They talk to people and the people just sort of tell them what they already know. We're able to walk into the most complex problems that you can imagine because we bring in the content experts. It's the experts on the problem that are the ones that are figuring it out. That is a huge differentiator. The name Demosophia comes from a Greek word meaning wisdom of the people. All change in the world came from the minority voice. The majority just likes things the way they are. That's the same with our process. The work we do is scientifically based and researched. It's a science, which is why our process is replicated. When I stumbled across this process, it was amazing. We want to do work that's meaningful to people, the community, the world. I have never in my life found anything like the power of this process to make change in the world.